So we had some massive changes happen to some of the Animus for both the SSR and the SRs. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it, starting out with Doky Doi. Now, Doky Doi's big change was they actually changed her backup ability. And this basically is her skill 1 at level 5. It no longer removes all debuffs anymore. It now only removes 3. And so basically this is going to be ensuring that there is a window for you to be able to counteract a character like Doky Doi. I feel like there are basically a lot of oppressive units coming into the game, and so this is going to allow you to still be able to get her through. I think one of the biggest things they noticed as well was that she was one of the higher picked units, period. Like, she was just perma-banned from everything. And it's just simply because no one wanted to deal with a unit that had an ability that basically could remove all debuffs always. And so that was something that I think now they kind of have lessened that a little bit so that she's more counterable, but she's still going to be effective if you're building into speed and really honestly turn meter manipulation, so she can still continue to rotate. Now, next up we have Messiah. So Messiah got a slight nerf to the skill 2, but a buff to the skill 3. So the skill 2 has been reworked. So the old had 3 hits of 90% damage with 6% bonus per 1% HP lost by the target. Now, this actually would get kind of ridiculous depending on like what you were hitting, like whether you were hitting like a regular ad versus a boss. But the new change to it is this 3 hits of 100% damage. The final hit deals a bonus damage equal to 100% of the target's lost HP, but it caps at 350% of Messiah's attack. Before it didn't cap, so you were seeing some astronomical damage. This also might kind of shift, somewhat how people might feel a little bit with maybe starting out with him, because a lot of the CN players were really gung-ho about, we got to start out with Messiah, so that might shift just some. But then the other thing is that the cooldown reduction on upgrades has been removed. So that's another thing. They don't want him gaining this nearly as fast, or if you're building like things like maybe Codex and Magic, that's like another way to filter it, or pairing him up with a unit to help with cooldowns. Now, you also have the skill 3 that got buffed. So the damage increase went up from 170% to 180%, and it now ignores 70% defense, and it went up from 50%. So that's actually really good for him, considering that the skill 3 is the massive AoE, and because of that defense ignore, that's actually going to be great on things like, for example, Doky Doi. That's actually huge. So now we have Lily has some slight nerfs, which again, she was very oppressive. So the skill 1 no longer scales to 240% damage via upgrades. It's the base, and then the assist has a lower start or lower chance as well to be procced. The skill 2's passive twin trick gives 30% turn meter. It went down from 40%, and then the skill 3 cooldown extension chance reduced from 55 or to 55% from 65%. This is obviously good because I think, like, comparing the two, Doky Doi and Lily, they just were kind of the 2 scariest units in the game. So I think they balanced them some so that they're again not as oppressive. Even with the turn meter not being at 40% and going to 30% is actually nice, because you got to consider how much things can actually push turn meter, maybe even other units on your team that's doing it, and then not even including the pets and things of that nature that also have activated effects. So lowering those parameters also gives a little bit more value to those things to make up for it, but it also makes it to where innately the character isn't as oppressive, which is nice. Now Silence actually got a kit shift and some buffs. She was terrible. I would argue one of the worser SSRs in the game, and not because she was just inherently a bad unit. I think one of the problems she ran into in comparison to a lot of other Animus was she didn't really do anything specifically well, right? Now, what exactly changed with her in the skill 1? It now refers to forgetfulness instead of oblivion, right? Now, forgetfulness, just to kind of give you a perspective as to, what that value is for that ability specifically, forgetfulness is going to be something that makes it to where you cannot trigger your passive effects, okay? So now this is something that's going to be a huge portion or part of her kit. It's in the skill 1. Going into the skill 2, you have the Aqua Shield improved. So the absorption went from 40% to 50%. The max HP cap increased from 14% or to 14% from 12%. And the damage reflect is boosted to 85% from 75%. And now the skill 3 applies forgetfulness instead of that crit rate down. And that was what was kind of just making her random. She did all these things, but none of it actually really leaned into a specialty. So now her specialty is going to be leaning into not allowing you to be able to trigger your passive effects. It's going to be coming with a reflect damage boost with, the absorption, and then of course the max HP cap increase. So that's something that now kind of makes her more of a solidified unit. And I feel like she's going to have a little bit more weight in the game now because of that. Now, Close actually had some mixed changes here. So skill 1, chance to inflict hacking progress was reduced from 80% to 70%, which, I mean, is that fair? I mean, yeah. I mean, like in reality, like Close is definitely like used pretty heavily. I think like, the hype for her just kind of died out because there was obviously newer units, but it didn't change like, how effective she actually is. And hacking progress is like pretty, busted in its own, because each stack increases damage taken by 5% and decreases damage dealt by an additional 10%. It also decreases speed, if I'm not mistaken, up to 3 stacks. And then I think it also will then evolve into the hacking, which the hacking is just super busted too. So there's a lot of reasons as to why that kind of makes sense. So skill 2, wording change, they now increase turn meter still by 10% per stack of hacking progress. It was 20% for every 2 stacks. So yeah, I guess that is technically that is kind of like a buff at that in that sense. Now, what are the nerfs here? Okay, hacking progress damage taken is now 5% down instead of 6%. The damage reduction is now 10% instead of 12%, and then the hack and effect reduction decrease is now 40% instead of 45%. Again, something I feel like does offer balance, because what was kind of happening is that you would pair these things up with other abilities and you're getting astronomical damage or astronomical effects that, are kind of just all coinciding with each other. And these are some of the things that I think even, kind of led to some of the like crazy nukes we're even doing on things like Tiamat, or even like Amaterasu. Well, it's because a lot of these debuffs, you could stack them. So, you're talking about the unique debuff that she has that helps with scaling some of the damage, decreasing some of the damage you're taking. You also have like units like, for example, I'm trying to think what the name of it. It's like erosion, like that debuff is another one that's like pretty predominant. And then you have the new pets that come into play that deal true damage now. So it's a lot of ways to scale your damage. So it makes sense that a lot of the units' base values are kind of coming down, because yeah, it would get quite out of hand if they didn't adjust it. Now we got some buffs coming to Ling Lao. This is the 7-day login champion. Skill 1, passive Rockstar, 65% chance to purify and apply well prayer, up from 65%, and so it's up from 60%, or yeah, it was, I guess, lower. So yeah, it's up now. But from there, we have the skill 3 healing bonus per buff increase. So from up to a max of 45% to 60%, this is a huge improvement for sustain. So yeah, that actually is true. That is massive shift there. And so yeah, I actually think that that's pretty nice, because they did take away, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ling Lao had a speed up buff, and a lot of people thought that that was going to hurt her, but it didn't. It actually was something that was making her quite oppressive in conjunction to everything she did, and she still ended up being meta in PvP and still is relevant, and I would argue is the meta healer for PvE. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's just better across the board. How is that going to affect PvP? I mean, more bulk, but it's a lot of things that, like I said, can rip through stuff now, so I guess it kind of makes up for that. Now Tiamat has some mixed changes. The skill 1 gains bloodshed every 13% HP loss. It was 12. Now the skill 2 heal over time duration is increased to 2 turns. You also have the skill 3 taunt chance reduced from 50% and it went down from 60%. And then you have the ultimate, which is a skill 4, which damage now scales with 15% of max HP, so up from 13% of current HP, and it's a significant buff at low health. So because it is giving you that little extra parameter, that 2% might not seem like much, but that actually is quite significant when you're talking about an HP based Animus and a unit that's able to just kind of like nuke, right? Because that's what the skill 4 basically is. It's just a rotate, like crazy buffing that she gets into Dragon Mother form, and she's just nuking all day. So she actually is going to be hitting harder in that. The taunt has a little bit of a lesser chance, but you can kind of make up for that with more accuracy. So there's a lot of different things that, they kind of shifted. Even with the bloodshed, it's now based off of a higher percentage. So you need more HP to be lost, basically, for you to be able to gain that bloodshed. bloodshed. So I think that, you know, kind of, again, all balances her out, but she is still very good. I still tested her out. She works not really too different. You can kind of tell it if you like obviously been playing every single beta like I have, but not to the point where it's like, wow, this unit's just trash now. Like, it's definitely not like that. Now you have Shia with a minor nerf. So skill 3 bonus damage per soul flame reduced from 100% to 80%. I'll tell you right now, the biggest reason why this happened is because we have the I think that pet is called Revelation. Yeah, I think Revelation is like one of the biggest reasons with that, because that pet basically makes it to where whenever a crit hit is dealt by the owner Animus in their turn, it deals additional true damage. So if she gets paired up with something like that, when she's AoE nuking, yeah, hitting everything with true scale damage is kind of insane. And so yeah, that being based off of your target's max HP as well is a whole nother thing. So yeah, that actually is going to be providing some, you know, pretty stable stability there when we're talking about like mass nuking and stuff like that. I know a lot of people are under the impression that Shia, you know, is just not that great. I think the problem is not that she's not great. She does need to ramp, kind of like Chloros a little bit. But because there's now these new pets that exist, that in conjunction to, you know, the skill, you know, skills and mods, yeah, it would get out of hand in terms of her nuke potential. And I even showed in PvP that Shia can still hit very hard. It's just the fact you have to actually ramp it. Right. Now, Hellkid, heavy nerf. So no longer converts damage into Shroud Barrier. This, I think, was necessary. I think Hellkid was just way too oppressive. To the point where it was like, okay, yeah, you can try to strip him, but like if somebody built against that, then yeah, you're just kind of cooked if he gets to go. Like that's just how it was. It was like if he gets any of his abilities off, yeah, GG. And having the converting damage into the Shroud Barrier was just insane. Now the skill 2 now includes that damage conversion, but it's capped at 150% attack and on a cooldown. Before, again, it was not capped, so it just kind of was like, hey, you know, this attack damage, you know, attack built unit, and it would cause him to gain a ton of shield, like so much so that he was actually out shielding you know, the more tankier, like defense based, HP based shielders like Tiamat and stuff like that, like units literally designed to you know, kind of be those paladins. He could just out shield them all day as an attack scaler. And then of course with the skill 3, shield reduced to 240% attack, down from 280% attack. And because also this cooldown, this is going to be nice for slowing down the reapplication of the Shroud Barrier. So that's something that I think, again, like I know some people are like, why'd they touch Hellkid? Dude, he was pretty oppressive. And I think this also makes his boss fight a little bit easier too. So that again is also another thing that kind of coincides with that. More than likely, if there's a adjustment made to the character, it will also affect the boss or the PvE content, at least for the story, I will say, right? Now, Chloros, okay, we got some changes that were made to him. He is actually even stronger. So now he deals, instead of 390%, he deals 400% damage on his skill 3. Permanent final damage bonus now stacks in 25% chunks. It was 20% before, so only 4 casts needed to max it out. So before, it was like an insane amount of procs that you needed in order for you to be able to you know, get the doom toll to basically trigger for you to get the max value in his ability. And I think that that's actually what was hurting him the most, was that it just took too long, right? Nobody was trying to ramp him or take all of that time to ramp him. Now the doom toll now triggers at 10 stacks instead of 12. Why is this better? Those 2 hits do add up, and for one, it was like with the 20% at 12, that was just insane. I'm talking about an insane amount of hits. You got to get 12 hits per doom toll, and it's only building up progressively at 20%, versus now you have the doom toll at 10 at 25%. Yeah, you're going to be able to get those hits out real fast, right? And of course, Chloros offers a couple of multi-hits himself, so that's just a really good combination there. So I feel like Chloros, again, is still going to be really good at Union Boss, but now I was doing some testing. He's actually performing much better now at things like Tiamat, and it's just because his ramp doesn't take nearly as long as it did before. So just kind of, you know, some food for thought there. Now, Leon, she got a buff. So her skill 1 lifesteal damage, or lifesteal increase, sorry, was increased to 50% from up to the 40% that she had initially. just means that she gets more HP value. I was noticing like comparatively to like one character, which was Born. Born actually was like out like life stealing her like crazy. So I think they made that adjustment because he actually is realistically able to keep himself up with like one hit, and she has a few hits. And so I think that that's something that was kind of necessary for her to be, you know, okay at that point with that life steal. Now, Veronica got the nerf. So the skill 2 HP cost reduced to 13% from 20%. And the shield increased to 24% from max HP from 20%. So it was a minor buff for that. But her skill 3 now only has an 80% chance to steal buffs and only a 50% chance per buff to share with allies. This is a major nerf, especially for Arena. I think one of the things that, like I said, was one of the things that we were all losing our minds over in the tournament was when we actually seen that Veronica was able to basically 100% guarantee that she could steal someone's unique buff. And I think that that's already impressive that she can steal unique buffs, but then she was able to basically share it with her whole party. So in particular, she was able to steal like characters like Biotin's unique buff, the Underworld Flower, and she fully resurrected her entire party. Like seeing stuff like that, that's definitely a very, very impressive thing. Being able to steal any buff is very, very impressive because that's including unique buffs, which I played a ton of turn-based games. I've never really seen any unit specifically be able to steal unique buffs. It's usually generalized buffs or generic buffs. She can steal unique buffs too. So that's something that I think, like, for those that have not experienced Veronica, Veronica is actually a very, very scary character, and having these changes actually is quite nice because it's just kind of balancing her out a little bit. The shield increase, you know, is nice as well, and the HP cost reduce is also nice as well, just so that that's just not as oppressive. Now with the SR Animus changes, Dorothy got a buff, so converts 150% crit rate into crit damage, so up from 120%. I would definitely say, of course, same thing still stands with Dorothy. She actually will be a pretty solid unit once you get her built up a little bit later, really having good attack pieces on her and attacks main stats, I would argue, even subs, because she is an attack scaling healer. So I think that of course, you know, just kind of coincides with the fact that because she's attack scaling, she can technically still be built as a damage dealer, but that's still going to be offering, you know, sustain, right? Now, Victor has some nerfs. The biggest thing that they changed to him with the skill 2 damage reduction per 10% HP loss decreased to 6% now, and then the skill 3 shield reduced to 110% down from 120%. I think again it was minor nerfs just so that he wasn't so overtuned, but he's still great, right? Like Victor is still really strong, still hits very, very hard. Just testing him out, he's running some of my comps right now. He still works extremely well. Now Diting got buffed, and I would tell you firsthand, he definitely got buffed. So his buff is basically a skill 2 converts 150% crit rate into crit damage, and it went up from 120%, so he gets 30% more there. Dude hits like a freaking truck. You give him some debuffs, he has innate built-in crit rate as well to also convert into more crit damage. I think it's like 60% in the skill, I think it's the passive. So yeah, Diting does really, really good damage. Now Sania got nerfed. Sania got nerfed, and I'll tell you why, because she was kind of busted. She was definitely a meta unit for PvP even, but her nerf, basically for skill 2, healing is now 0.8% per 1% HP loss, and it went down from 1%. And then the skill 3 gains 2 turn cooldown increase. On revive, it was 1. So that actually gives you a little bit more of a window for you to be able to get rid of her. I think that was definitely one of the problems, was that her windows were so small on the revive. She was able to basically kind of pick up her entire party just about, even if you were constantly working them down. She could just keep repicking people back up because the cooldown was just so low, and it didn't really give you a good window. And that's considering that she doesn't even AoE revive. So yeah, Sania definitely, I felt like, you know, her getting adjusted makes sense. Chiaki, the Echo, of course, they had to nerf one of my favorite units, but again, it's a minor nerf. So the Ave Maria now gives 5% turn meter. It went down from 6%. Again, I think they're just trying to balance out some of those numbers when you're just kind of adding them to other values. But again, Chiaki still is good. Like even with the 1% reduction, she's still great. I still feel like she's a character that a lot of players are going to want on their account and should have on their account. Now Viper got buffed because Viper just wasn't doing enough. Excellent buff stripper, but definitely needed a little bit more to make it work better. So with the skill 1, it increased a chance to inflict silence, which is great. So that's forcing skill 1s. And then the skill 3, which was the bread and butter, a higher damage and better dispel chance. I think one of the problems that Viper really fell into was that he had this really solid chance to dispel buffs because he could hit so much, but he just didn't offer any damage. So you would have him in like these weird builds where he wasn't really built. He like properly, it was like he's tank, but kind of damage, but he doesn't do either one really well. So he just kind of like really was just there to buff strip. And so you're not really getting much more utility at that time from that slot. So yeah, good change there. R77 is mixed. So skill 3 base stun chance is now 65%, which is great. And then the first upgrade now adds 5% max HP instead of the other effects. Again, I think that that's okay for him. RC77 is also really good. He's been good. And I would say that it's going to be great even for like some of those more efficiency like oriented cons because he is SR. He has a ton of debuffs, increases his own accuracy. He's really good with like even lowering no stat value. So yeah, RC77's shift makes sense with the stun. That kind of gives him a little bit more PvP usage there and even some PvE opening as well. Like just being able to stun is again another huge thing that's required. Like I was showing in some of the boss fights, being able to stun is now a requirement. Like you need that in your party for some of these bosses. Now Kraken did get nerfed a little bit because again he's oppressive too. Skill 3 turn meter reduction is now 75% chance and the pushback is 35%. It was 40%. We kind of get why. I mean, again, this dude can literally permalock you, and the thing that's different between a CC freeze versus a regular stun is that you don't get turn meter when you're frozen versus when you're stunned. You still can rotate on the turn meter bar. When you're frozen, you do not. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure that's kept in check because you know any new unit comes into play that could definitely skyrocket and change that value so much. And that's the thing too, is that now we got to think about combinations. So we'll see how that goes. Fang has got a mixed change here. Skill 1 chance to apply dot drop from 35 or drop to 35% down from 60. That's a pretty significant shift, but I also get why. There's a lot of like overstacking that can basically happen if you're putting him with Obel, with Sania, even throwing in Ashu in the mix. Like yeah, you can definitely land enough dot, but it was making it to where he was like a one-man train for it. So you kind of didn't even need units like Sania, which I would argue you don't want to you know, undermine the SSR premier dot detonation unit, dot application unit. You want to still make sure she's relevant. And then of course you have the skill 3, which now guarantees 100% chance to apply dot and speed down. So again, I think that's also you know, kind of working out with the give and take there. You have the 100% chance buff, and then you have that reduction in the other abilities because you have that 100% guarantee. Now, lastly, we have Chiaki. This is actually the damage reduction heal version of Chiaki. So basically the skill 1 now heals 2 allies for 12% HP down from 20%, and then grants Origami Guardian. It reduces the next hit by 35%. The skill 3 healing per HP loss increased to 1.2%, and that went up from 1%. I think they were just trying to give her a little bit more value. Definitely one of the more underused healers. And I think it's just because, like, again, when you're comparing her to some of the other characters in the game, you got the Ling Lao, you got the Dorothy, you got Sania, now we got Mia. Yeah, she needs to hold a little bit more weight respectively for her attribute, more than just necessarily her just being a healer. So of course, with that, guys, we have no changes for the R Animus. And again, shout out to Neva for getting this article completed on the wiki. This is up, so we're gonna always be on top of making sure that we let you guys know what changes are happening in the game from patch to patch, how things have evolved, what they used to be, just so that you guys are always locked in, because sometimes these things can kind of slide slide by and you might not even notice it. And so, yeah, these were some of the things that we were actually checking in game, just to make sure that, you know, things were either the same or things that, you know, were shifted. We were able to get this information to you guys. So again, guys, definitely make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.